Okay, the first thing we need to remind ourselves of is this. When we think of Jews, we think of all people that were born in Hebrew lineage. But that's not the case in the Gospels. Jews, as you probably know, it comes from the brother Judah, one of the 12 brothers of Israel. He had 12 sons. And one of those brothers' names, one of his 12 sons' name was Judah. And that's where the name Jew came from. And what you see here between Jesus and the Jews is not Jesus as Christian man and the entire sect of the Jewish religion. That's not what this is all about at all. This is a tribal and an area conflict between the northern tribes of Israel, and the Galileans, the Samaritans, and the southern tribes of Judah, the Jews. So that's what this is all about. And Dr. John Bergsman thinks that the better translation is saying the Jews, and Jesus was against the Jews, and it should be Jesus against the Judeans, those who come from Judah. And that would be the more accurate way to describe all this. So again, what we have is an area of conflict here, the north and the south there. Okay, so let's get back to this here now. So Jesus hears about his friend who's ill. And the first thing he says was, well, this illness is not going to end in death. And people are like, wait, what's death got to do with this? He's just ill. What are you talking about, death? And Jesus knew something that they didn't. And then Martha, then he waits 2 days. And church fathers were asking, well, what is that all about? He waits 2 days. Why does John say that? Why did Jesus do that? And we can only guess and do a little theology, and that's all we can do. But I want to draw your attention to St. Augustine. That St. Augustine said, like Jesus said, well, to heal somebody of illness is one pretty good miracle. But to resuscitate somebody of death, that's even a bigger miracle. And that's what St. Augustine says. That's what's going to happen here. And then, as you know, then Jesus makes tracks down wherever he was towards Bethany, which is a small area right next to Jerusalem. And these people are probably not Judeans. They're probably Benjamites. They're from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so Jesus goes down there, and he's outside the town of Bethany, and Martha, one of the two sisters, goes and greets him. And notice how she does it. She greets Jesus with a little bit of an attitude. Respectful, but an attitude. Hey, Jesus, come on, man. If you would have been here, my brother would have lived. She's got a little edginess to her. So then how does Jesus respond to this sister, Martha? Well, he responds with more edginess. He's like, hey, Martha, come on, man. You remember me. Don't you believe that I can do this? And then, Martha was like backing down right away. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Do what he says. Let's go. And then she goes to Mary and says, Mary, he wants to see you. And we don't have in Scripture that Jesus wanted to see Mary, but Martha told Mary that, and Mary went. And then what does Mary do when she arrives with Jesus? She does respect him. She lays prostrate, right? Face down on the ground, lies face down, prostrates herself. But even as she's respecting him, she's got edginess too. Hey, Jesus, come on, man. If you would have been here on time, we gave you plenty of time to get here. Why didn't you do something? And then again, Jesus responds with a little edginess. Okay, so what this teaches us is that we have emotions that are unique to the world, to the created world. And these emotions are actually divine, believe it or not. There's a book I read some years ago. It was written by a Catholic counselor. His name was Conrad Baer, B-A-A-R. And he starts off with this book called Healing and Feelings by saying, who determined that these sets of feelings are good feelings? Like love and peace and joy and happiness. And then these sets of feelings are negative, like hatred, anger, bitterness, confusion. Who decided that? And what he's saying is feelings are feelings. And so what you got here is a whole lot of negative, quote unquote, negative feelings. These two sisters come to Jesus with edginess because they lost their brother. And then Jesus responds to edginess because he's a little frustrated because they're supposed to recognize he's God, he can fix things. And then I love this interaction. Then Jesus finally goes to the tomb. And he says, remove the tomb. And then Martha says, Jesus, there's going to be a stench. And you can see Jesus saying, well, thank you very much, Captain Obvious. Like Jesus would not know that. But Jesus is patient. You know, he's edgy, but he's patient, right? And he says, remove the stone. Now, here's the cool part then. So then, the cool part is there's a resuscitation, right? There's a resurrection. And this resurrection is a foretaste of the true resurrection in Jesus Christ and then our resurrection. But this is just a foretaste. This is really more so a resuscitation, not a resurrection. Because we know that Lazarus is going to die again. And so what does this teach us then? That our dying and our sinfulness are linked together. And when Lazarus comes out of the tomb, I don't know how he got out of there because they wrap him a lot with the burial cloths, but somehow he got out of there like a penguin. And then they said, untie him. This is just theologically just incredible how our sinfulness and our dying are so connected together. And so as we continue to finish up this Lenten journey, I want to encourage you to come to this building. As many of you know, this church door is open until 9 o'clock in the evening or 10 o'clock sometimes. And so it's open to you. And come to this church building. Even if it's with your edginess, even if you're frustrated, you got a little anger towards God with whatever it is. God knows we got anger. And I just want to remind you that anger is not a bad thing. Now, if we do something sinful out of anger, then we got problems. But all our emotions are just that. They're emotions, and they point actually to the divine. God's got anger. So let's bring our emotions. That's part of who we are as human beings, although our emotions never dictate what's right and wrong, but that's who we are. And let's bring our emotions, and maybe I've seen in the past where I came in here and I seen human beings right there on that floor, laying flat on the floor with their face buried in the ground. I've seen it before in my 4 years here. Maybe you want to consider doing that. And bring all of you to Jesus. He's bringing all of you to yourself and your family by his very presence in the Holy Eucharist. And now the question is, are you going to truly bring all of yourself, not this part, not that much of yourself, but all of yourself to Jesus and believe that he is the resurrection and the life?